But you need to have that resilience to understand the purpose for which you must endure this pain for now, because of that which you expect to get at the end of it.
Wow. Blessings, everyone. Welcome to the BSM podcast. I'm Bishop Shirley Stanfill, and here at the podcast, we believe, think big, act big, believe big, and you will see big results. Now, on this podcast, you never know who's in the studio. And today, my new friend and sister, Doris Ahiati, she is here today to talk about faith and stewardship, professionally and business-wise. You are going to enjoy this episode, so don't you touch that dial. Go ahead and invite somebody, tweet them, messenger, email them, call them, and tell them to come on right now and enjoy the BSM podcast. Now, Doris, tell us a little bit about yourself, professional-wise and personal, and then talk to us about the faith that we need for stewardship.
Right. Thank you very much for having me on, Bishop Shirley. I like to introduce myself with my life purpose and mission, which is a passion to help people achieve financial and spiritual freedom, ultimately through learning experiences. And the learning experiences where you'd find me most times is corporate finance and advisory services, also with executive coaching, and then with training, mentoring, and lecturing as well. We had spoken about my certification with John C. Maxwell earlier, and then with the International Coaching Federation, ICF. I'm a mother of 4 sons only. And also happily married, thankfully. And a little bit about the whole family, we love traveling. So I think that is the point where I'll begin to introduce a very timely topic which you have set as the agenda for today. And I'm thinking about in these times when financially there's a lot of volatility, a lot of turmoil. Bring it home to our context here in Ghana at this time. There are probably people that are going to sleep without eating.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is of great concern. And that's why I think this topic is very important. You talk about the global trends of inflation across the world, and it may dissuade people from taking actions to invest because they are uncertain about the future. And that's what makes this conversation very pertinent, especially 5 values that I have set aside for us to look at, values that should guide us both professionally and personally as far as our stewardship is concerned as believers. And I want us to come from a background of looking at what happened with creation. This is a basic definition of what it means to be a steward. And in Genesis chapter 2, after God had created Adam and Eve, he put them in charge of the garden. And he said that they should till it and take care of it. So that is what stewardship means. You take care of something. It's not yours.
Right.
And the Bible also tells us that silver and gold are mine. That is God speaking. So our wealth, our financial resources all really belong to God.
To God,
And I like to sometimes say the fact that you possess something doesn't make you an owner.
Yes.
Okay. So those are the concepts you should think about when you think about stewardship. You have merely been entrusted with a thing. You may use it, but make sure that it is ready. And if you are in doubt, check what happens when we die. Nobody carries any of the resources that are entrusted to them that are in their possession beyond the coffin. Okay, so that's what stewardship really means. And if we are going to make decisions that help us to thrive both personally and professionally, the first Christian value that I would like us to avert our minds to is the value of faith. And I'm sharing a scripture in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 and also Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 4 to 6. In Hebrews, faith is defined as the assurance of things hoped for. And as a believer, there may be many things you may hope for. These may be material things, financial possessions that you'd like to have when it comes to career-wise. There may be career aspirations that you dream of, and this is okay. And I also want to say that it's important that you are able to dream and have these visions to start with. Because without that faith, which causes you to take action, that causes you to think about possibilities, you are not heading anywhere.
That's right.
So that's very important. And then also Ecclesiastes talks about he who observes the winds would not sow, and he who observes the clouds would not harvest, will not reap. And essentially, how faith connects to this is that there may be circumstances around you at this time that tell you that that action which you desire, that action which you wish you could take, that aspiration is an impossibility. But here scripture is telling us that whether it is some career choices, transition, action that you need to take, or whether it has to do with a step to invest, to place your funds in some financial security, or to embark on some economic venture, that you should not observe these things, but you should take action by faith.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is faith, the first value of stewardship. You need to first believe. Then the second value that I want to touch on is the value of learning. I love learning.
Yeah,
I couldn't finish this without touching on learning. And the Bible talks about in Hosea 4 verse 6, that for the lack of knowledge my people perish. You cannot embark on any venture and expect to be successful
and not learn.
Yeah. There is the learning before, where you are preparing and researching. There is the experiential learning happening during the moment. You need to pay attention to and harvest. A lot of us miss the experiential learning. We are either just too excited, too eager to get to the end that we miss the learning in the process.
Anxious, yes.
So it's important that we look at that second piece of learning. And then there is the learning that happens after reflections on all that has transpired.
Right.
So that you can carry that which worked well into future projects, and that which didn't work well to find a way to mitigate it in the future.
Wow, absolutely.
Okay, so the learning bit is very important. And I say it's important for us, if the Bible has said that for the lack of knowledge the people perish, if you are going to progress in your personal life, make meaningful advances in your professional life, also with your finances, that you need knowledge, you need to understand what it is you are dealing with, so that you can make optimal choices in order to get ahead. Then we go to the third value, and it's the value of wisdom. Now you have knowledge, you have faith, so you can envision, you can plan, you can desire. You know that these things which you dream of are possible, and you are energized to go pursue them. You have some learning, you have knowledge, and so hopefully you should not perish. However, how do you optimize the knowledge that is available to you? How do you make optimal choices? How do you select those very opportunities that come your way, because they are the ones that are going to lead you to the great breakthroughs that you are looking for? And the Bible says in James that he gives freely without finding fault to all when you pray and ask for wisdom. So that's, I think, is a solution. Nobody has an excuse for not being wise.
Yep, nobody.
We need to call on God for the wisdom, and he would freely give to us without judging us. Wisdom is the third Christian value that is important and crucial to our walk as stewards. And then the fourth value is the value of character. The value of character. And when I think about character, I always go to the book of Proverbs. In the book of Proverbs, the whole book sorts of talks about three kinds of characters that we have. And it talks about the character of foolishness. It talks about the character of simplicity. And then it talks about the character of wisdom, which ties back into wisdom, which we looked at 4. And the question I would throw out to listeners is, would you rather be simple or foolish, or you would be wise in the choices and the decisions that you make when it comes to your career, when it comes to whatever has been entrusted in your hands? And I think when we get to point number 5, we'll look at what has been entrusted in our hands as stewards. What that we need to guard with wisdom. What is it that we need learning to achieve? What is it that we need to use the faith for? And so when we talk about character, a very key attitude or mindset that underscores the character of the wise is discipline. And in behavioral finance, we do talk about the role of discipline. There are people out there who know so much, who have access to so many opportunities, and yet they are not harnessing them. There are some that have opportunities, but they mess up those opportunities. They are not able to make the opportunity serve them. And you want the opportunities that you encounter to be opportunities that are sustainable, not opportunities that are here today and tomorrow they are gone. And if you are going to be sustainable in your pursuits, it's going to require discipline. I think still in Proverbs, the Bible points us to look at the ways of the ant, which is like the tiniest of organisms.
They work as a body.
Yes. And they store their food in winter, they store their food in summer, they don't rest. And we have, excuse my language, people that are choosing the pathway of foolishness who think, I have enough for now. Let me finish consuming it. If it's fun, let me party until everything is gone, and then I'll go and start repeating. That's not prudent. And so you need discipline. Still in talking about character, the Bible talks about in the book of Luke that does anyone set out to put up a tower without first estimating the cost? So that also signals to you the importance of planning ahead. The value of planning ahead, and it's an integral part of character. If you want to get to a certain career level, in particular, women tend to talk about the glass ceiling, and I think glass ceilings are in the mindset of each individual. And if you want to shatter it, you can shatter it. It's up to you and how much discipline that you want to exercise. Let me also say that in Maxwell leadership, we talk about the law of pain. Discipline is never comfort.
Yes, never.
And we say nothing grows in the comfort zone. If you want to only be comfortable and not experience any discomfort, you don't want to feel any pain at all, then you cannot exercise discipline. You cannot restrain yourself. You don't get to where you could have gotten to if you would only exercise some discipline. Let's look at it in terms of investment. When you have your money today, you can go party, you can go on some vacations, you can do a lot of fun things with that money, and then the money is gone. You may also choose to place that in a business venture, in some financial security or fund or bonds. And at some future date, you would get additional on top of whatever initial amount you had placed in any of these ventures. And while the money is there and you don't have access to it, you would see beautiful things. You may see people going on vacation, and you might desire to go, and you would not be able to go. You would feel the pain. However, you need to have that resilience to understand the purpose for which you must endure this pain for now, because of that which you expect to get at the end of it.
Because pleasure also brings pain. Sometimes people buy cars they can't afford, so they look good in the car for a minute, but then when it comes time for the car payment and the insurance payment, so you just have to balance what pain is profitable. This is awesome. This is good stuff. Go ahead, Doris.
And now I'm going to the very final value, and it's the value of accountability. The value of accountability. And I think in the book of Romans, Christians are made to understand that we will be called to account before God for how we lived our life. Each one of us would have to give account. And that already should give you an idea of the fact that as a steward, you are not supposed to just do things anyhow and get away with it.
That's right.
There is that point where you need to give account. And so we started with the story in the Garden of Eden where something has been entrusted in your care. At the end of the day, you would be called to give account as to how you took care of that. And that's what brings us back to my question of what is it that has been entrusted into your hands? Every one of us has something that has been entrusted into our hands. And we can avert our minds as Christians to the parable of the talents. Okay. Somebody was given 5 talents. He put the 5 talents to use and doubled it. That is caring for it. My understanding of caring for what has been entrusted into your hands. And he multiplied it and he accounted for it literally to the master. And the one that had been given 2 talents also had doubled it and came back. And for both people that had multiplied the talent, more was actually given to them.
Yeah.
And then there was an irresponsible one who had not made use of the talent.
Yeah.
It's very important for us to not doubt that something has been given to us.
Yes.
Sometimes we are distracted by appearances. We see somebody's gifting at work and we think, this is beautiful. I would like to associate myself with that gifting. However, the giftings that God has given to us come as natural abilities. We need to train, hone, and specialize the skills in that area of our strength, those abilities that God has given to us. However, it is irresponsible for us to just want to be a copy of some talent we see that we admire, because there's a reason why we have been given that peculiar purpose and given the strength to enable us to deliver that purpose, because God knows the world needs it. And by not going ahead to use that unique talent, whether it is in the field of work, and each one of us, and I like to say our lives are not split. We have one life that we live.
Yeah.
That life includes what you do while at work, while you are doing things you call personal, and while you are anywhere else.
Anywhere. One life.
Yes.
One accountability.
Yes. So you are constantly on duty.
Yeah.
And it's very important that we know and understand. We spend time to reflect, ask for God's guidance. And there are coaches and other professionals that can also support us to identify that purpose. And once we know that purpose, then we are able to, it's a very highly elevated statement. And you know that every decision that you are making is filtered using that purpose. So you don't waste time on things that are not aligned with purpose. And that way you multiply your impact. So that when you are called to account, you actually have a lot to account for. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 10 says that whatever gifts have been given to you, you are to use it for the benefit of others. So your gifting may have led you to accumulate some financial resources and wealth. What do you do with it? Do you hoard it? Or do you use it to benefit the world? And it's interesting. We have the likes of Bill Gates, who have accumulated quite some wealth globally, and they are also championing projects like the malaria project in Africa. So they are using their wealth to benefit. I cannot speak to his standing when it comes to faith. However, for anyone listening to us on this podcast, I believe that you are a Christian and or soon to be a Christian. And it's important that you don't wait to accumulate to a certain point before you use that which you have to benefit others. And it may be your financial resources, or it may be the strengths that you have, the gifting that will benefit others. And you should not hold back. Don't restrain. If it is singing, sing in the church. Sing for people during their parties. Sing for people when they are down. You are delivering your ministry, and when you are called to account, you'd be able to account profitably. If it is encouraging, encourage. If it is connecting, like you sincerely, use it to connect people wherever you see. That's very, very important. And I think that is the note on which I want to bring this to an end. Don't hoard. When you are a steward, the principle essentially says that it comes and it goes. And the more you release that gifting that is placed in your hands, the more is released into your lap. And the more you hoard it, if there's no outlet,
Yeah.
the more it dies.
Well, I always say a closed hand can't give, but it also can't receive. So when the hand is open, it can give and it can receive. And I think in a world of pride, that we think that it's all about me. What can I do for me? So we're looking to be blessed, but the word says it's better to bless than it is to, receive. And so we as Christians, when we see the church world, and though somebody can preach faith, talk about faith, they're not living on faith. They're living on people's tithes, seeds, and offering. And so I think that the world is confused about where we stand as believers, because they see so many leaders just as arrogant as the world.
I think that's an error.
It's a big error. It's a huge error.
Yes.
And it's a deceiving spirit. Share with us.
Now, the reality is that when we talk about this being an error and a deceiving spirit, it's not something that will also go without accounting for.
Absolutely.
And that's it's a dangerous thing for you to stand before God on Judgment Day and then be questioned about that widow in the church, that orphan, that person you saw on the street while you were living a certain lifestyle. And I think that should be a motivation. When I spoke about the importance of estimating costs, in finance, we have what we call budgeting, which is a tool that allows you to itemize how funds are coming into your hands, you're receiving, and also how it's leaving your hands. Some people think that my budget has to be equivalent to how much is coming into my And I like to say that you can also budget in an ambitious way.
Yes.
Where you're so coming to the mantra of this show, you want to grow big, right? So think about those things that would help you to generate additional income.
Yeah.
And it may require that you take some bold, courageous steps in order to set yourself up to generate those inflows.
Absolutely.
So there is a saying that we cut our coat according to our fabric. And I say that it shouldn't necessarily be according to how much fabric you have now, but look at the impact that you want to create, and based on that, find the resources.
Yes.
Because I think going by the mantra of cutting your coat according to your fabric is also
limiting.
Yes, it's a mindset of mediocrity, complacency. Let's just be satisfied with it. It might mean that you take on additional training.
Yeah.
It might mean that you undertake additional business ventures or commitments that empower you to be able to increase your inflows.
So which causes you to take your time and devote it more to business and pleasure. You might have to give up TV, or you might have to give up going out. I always teach in my church and across the world. A lot of times people say, I don't have any money. And that's not true. Because if you don't have any money, you can't eat, you can't take care of yourself. You have money, it's just what are you spending your money on?
Yeah.
And I always say, especially non-tithe payers, it's because they don't let their money work for them, And money, without money being assigned to something, it will go anywhere. The Bible says, I put a hole in your pocket and your money fell out your pocket. Or I blew on your money. Why? Because you didn't honor me with your finances. So the devil has cleverly given us a maze. First, people say, I give my tithe, but then they use my tithes for cars and houses and mansions. And then people say, I'm not giving my tithe, but now their money is somewhat restricted because they didn't obey the word of God.
Yeah.
So the enemy has used this strategically to either wound us from manipulators using the finances or from believers not really following the word of God because they don't want to be manipulated.
Yes. And I love the reference to tithing. I think that is where the value of faith comes in. You've got to believe that if I let it go to support the work of God, that if I remove this 10, that it's actually safeguarding the remaining
90.
There are so many testimonies that I could share in that area. So you know about first fruits. One day I decided to test it out, and it was the very first time I tried first fruits. The entire salary. It takes faith to do that. So then somebody who has my budgets, inflows and outflows, the 100% inflow is gone back out to the church. So ask yourself, how are you going to eat? But if he says gold and silver are his, and we are mere stewards. We didn't lack anything that month. Because God has a way of providing your needs. Talking about stewardship, we've had instances where just when we needed to make some payouts, that there have been opportunities, especially in my area, some contract, some opportunity has just come, and sometimes there's pressure to deliver it. So it doesn't come as a miracle where I'm sitting home and money drops.
But the door.
But the door is
an opportunity. And
you do the work. And so I do it, and I'm mindful that, look, I don't need to hoard this. What card is going to support some church activities, some church projects? And I'm also very certain that as it's going, there are more opportunities being directed for
Absolutely. I tried the first fruit too. I've done it. But about 2 years ago, I said complete, absolute, total 1 month salary. And I didn't look for anything back. I had been, now this is good because I want to shift to this. I had it for about 3 years. I left it.
Wow.
And I wasn't happy with the ground that I saw in front of me to sow it. So I held my seed because I believe the ground that you sow has a lot to do with the harvest you receive. You know, if a farmer sows in bad soil, you know, he's not going to get very much. And he's wasted his time. He's wasted his seed. So I knew instantly when I met Archbishop Papa that was my place to sow.
Wow.
I hadn't even met him. We hadn't talked like we here in Ghana. We didn't talk. But I said to my husband, I said, I think I sensed the seed time. He said, I do too. But what he didn't know was the amount. And when I said to him the amount, his mouth dropped. He said, really? I said, yeah, I feel it. So I want to say seeding is good. It's absolutely biblical and it does work. But it's not something like magic or gambling. You know, I'm going to sow my seeds so I can get. It doesn't work. It has to be spirit-led. And then where you sow has to be discerned that this is not cursed ground, manipulated ground, con ground, but it is good ground. And then your freedom, your confidence, I was happy. You know, giving that kind of money, be like, oh, no, I was happy because I felt connected to the word, connected to the spirit, and connected to the power. And that one seed has brought back, I can't even tell you how much harvest. I'm still reaping harvest off that. But I wasn't doing it for the harvest. I was doing it because my spirit was led to sow.
And that's the beauty of knowing that you're a mere steward.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for you to release and to let go.
Yeah.
And of course, talking about the importance of the soil in which you sow.
Yeah.
If the grounds don't look like fertile grounds, that could also be a reason someone might be tempted to hold back.
Yeah.
Because they do not feel.
Hold that seed. Absolutely. I want to touch on the fact that so many believers come to Christ and they're saved, but they're stingy. They're saved, but they're selfish. They're saved, but they're self-centered. And they think, I'm saved. Why am I further? Why isn't more happening? And they don't understand that the behavior or the personality that they're exhibiting is opposite the Word of God.
Yeah. So my view on this is that as believers, we ought to demonstrate love.
Yeah.
And we will grow in love.
Mm-hmm.
So when you become a born-again Christian, you begin a journey of love. I love to see love as an action word.
Yes.
Verb.
Mm-hmm.
For God so loved the world that
He gave. That's it. That's it.
So our faith as Christians,
Yeah.
our lifestyle as believers, is all about love.
Yeah.
And love is such that the more of it you know and appreciate, the more of it you pass on.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, for me, that would be a measure of how much matured, how much you are growing.
Yes.
So that you understand, as a finance professional, I know that money, for example, is a concept, right?
Yeah.
It only facilitates transactions.
It's a tool. That's it. It doesn't change your life. It gives you options.
At all.
First class, business class, premium, economy. Depending on where you are financially, depends upon where you see. But when the plane crashes, everybody plane. So that's and people are going to hell for money, and it's just a tool.
Yes. So if you understand it's just a tool, then if you have your lunch today and there is somebody who doesn't have lunch,
we will share
that lunch. Trust in faith that your supper or your dinner would come.
Yeah.
You need to believe and trust.
Yeah.
And once you trust that it will come, I think it's a requirement God has of us.
Yeah.
If you believe that it will come, it will actually come for you.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't believe, then unfortunately it will not come.
When I started ministry, Doris, and this has been so good, promise me you'll come back again, because I want to talk about you as a certified trainer. Maxwell, she's inspired me, mentoring me to be all that I can be in a speaker. Preaching is what I do, but I believe that there's a little gift somewhere in speaking, motivation. So you're my mentor in that.
Gift.
When I first started ministry, I had a dream and I had to go preach and I had no money. And I looked up to God and said, God, you want me to go? I want to go, but I have no money. He said, look in your hand. And when I looked in my hand, there was a $5 bill. And he says, take the 5. And I took the 5 out. And when I took the 5, I looked back in my hand, there was a $1 bill. He said, take the dollar. So I took the dollar, there was another dollar. And every time I would take the dollar, take the money, another one would appear. And he said to me, look to your hand and I will always provide. And so I knew back then, 40 years ago, that dream is still relevant to me that you may not see what you have, but if you look to your hands, God will provide. And he doesn't give you more than what you need, because then we would become lazy, complacent, arrogant, but he'll give you what you need at the time that you need it. And I have lived that in ministry. In my church where I've been pastoring for over 30 years, I've never taken an offering. They may give me a seed, they may give me a birthday gift, but I'm not a drainer of my church finances, because I believe that freely God give it to you. Freely you ought to give it. And he has blessed me in so many tremendous ways. There's more than one way to be blessed if we just allow God to do it. Final point, tithing. I taught my children at a very young age to tithe. And my daughter was in college. She came with the shoebox. And she said, Mom, I brought my tithe. And my mother was sitting there, and she had $500 wrapped up in rubber bands. She was working as a waitress while she was in college. So she would take 10% of her tips every day. And so when I would see her, she'd come home from college, she would have her tithes. So my mother says, oh, you're in college, you need that money. I said, she needs the blessings that comes from obedience. She has one of the best husbands I've ever seen.
Wow.
She has some of the best children I have ever seen. And don't think to give her no trouble. Excellent straight A students in school. Never has to go about their behavior or anything. And she was like, Mom, I'm so blessed. I said, that's because you were raised to tithe. And from a baby, I prayed that God would give you a good mate, one that would make you happy. So what we're saying here, everybody, is this. It's that a good mate, a love life, health, and wealth is all tied into stewardship. And if you want God to bless you, teach your children at a young age what it means to honor God, and they will see the favor of God over their lives. And you and I know, I can look at you and Bishop Johnny, you are so blessed.
By the grace of God.
Yeah.
We are grateful. We owe it all to Him.
Absolutely. Everything. I love what you said when you said you can possess it, but not be the owner of it.
Yes.
We possess a lot of things, but I don't want to own nothing. When He blows the trumpet and the trumpet sounds and He comes to rapture, I want to leave car, house, jewelry. I don't want nothing holding me, because we can't take it. When we die or when we're raptured, it's not going in the other side of life. Wow. But the blessings that we are experiencing as believers. And I try to tell unbelievers that don't get caught up in the church thing. Get caught up in the God thing, because living for God is one of the greatest things I have ever done in my life. And I can't even take credit for that, because it had not been for Him who found us, we would be lost.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. Everybody, we want to thank you for tuning in. My dear sister and my new friend, Doris Ahiati, brought it in today. I'm telling you, I'm going to look at this podcast again and again and again. She's going to be back again and again and again, talking about ways to budget, talking about ways to invest. And she's going to also talk about her certification in training and mentoring from Maxwell and some other places that she's just got degrees and certificates from everywhere. But I want to thank you for coming on. We were so blessed. And I like what the Lord has done with us. He has done a wonderful and marvelous thing. Until next time, we'll be back. This is Bishop Stanfill. Remember, think big, act big, believe big, and you will have big results.